Jane.
Okay. All right, everybody. So found my agenda here. We're going to call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock tonight. And as always, we're going to start with our Pledge of Allegiance. So everybody can mute and rise. I will say the pledge for us. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of
America,
and to the republic, which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So welcome everyone to our school committee meeting. We have on our agenda next citizens' comments, and we have no citizens' comments tonight. And so at this point, I'm going to move on to our next agenda item, moving right along. And that is our school committee chair update. Okay. So there's really only one thing that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention. And that is, Alita or Joe, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm fairly certain that I can speak to this through my update. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I just wanted to let everybody know that there is no movement on the regional agreement conversation, that the regional agreement at this moment in time is in the hands of our attorney, Peter Mello, and he is kind of reviewing and been asked to provide advice on how we should proceed with this. I can give people more information if they would like, or if you have anything that is pressing. I'd actually like to put this item on the next agenda, hoping that at that point we have more information to kind of discuss. So if that suffices for everyone, I will move on. Okay, so that will probably be on the agenda next time. All right, look at us, totally making tracks here. Our next item on the agenda is Superintendent Downing's update. And so Superintendent Downing, if you're ready, I know we moved very fast. I'll hand it over to you.
We are moving quickly. Thank you, Madam Chair. So in front of you through the materials, you have the Superintendent's Report for the school committee meeting. On weeks that I have, I just thought I'd share with you on weeks that we do have school committee meeting, the memo serves, this superintendent's update serves as what you regularly get as the Monday memo, and I hope you recognize that as such as well. But just want to report, I thought the opening of school went marvelously in the sense that seeing kids together with their teachers, there was a lot of joy. There was a lot of connectivity. We could tell that people were glad to get in. Some of the anxiousness or worriness that people may have around the opening of school, particularly in today's times, those things tend to settle as we get in and we get familiar with each other. And I thought it was a wonderful opening of the school. We did have a slight adjustment in terms of how we posted the bus routes this year. I'm happy to say that the bus routes went well. Everybody got to school on time. All the principals reported that their buses are running and doing well. And we developed a protocol to help families that had some questions about the buses and worked directly with the bus company to get any of those resolved. But that adjustment I thought went well. We're going to look for some behind the curtain methods that are password protected to post bus routes in the future, as we have some concerned citizens about posting addresses on our website of our bus routes. So more to come on that. We're going to research if PowerSchool can be the tool of the future for us in that, as we already use it in our system. So moving on from that, I do want to take an opportunity to introduce someone to you. This is Jane Tremblay. Jane is the retired superintendent from the Linfield School District. Jane has been assigned to be my mentor for the new superintendent's induction program. So I'll be working with Jane over the next 3 years on developing, honing, building skills as superintendent as we work on the common goals for the school system. I'll brief you quickly that I actually know Jane from both my time as a principal working on the Massachusetts Elementary School Principals Association board, and then later as an assistant superintendent. My superintendent selected Jane as my mentor as an assistant superintendent. So her and I got a pretty big chuckle when she was called to my assignment in the superintendent role. We just thought that was funny. So without further ado, I just want to introduce Jane and give her an opportunity to say hello to everybody and say a few words about the program.
Hi, everybody. I am just thrilled to be here and to be with all of you and to be with Kirk as his official mentor and coach for the NSET program. Basically, the NSET program, we are going to help Kirk to continue to think and act and work strategically. And the biggest thing that's going to come out of this program for all of you in your school district is Kirk will be putting together, he's going to talk to you tonight about his entry plan. He's going to be putting together a report of entry findings from that entry plan, and that will find its way into a strategic plan, which will help all of you to serve the students in your district in the best possible way. The whole idea of Kirk working with somebody from NSET and being part of this program is that his job is to move the dial for all of the students in your district, and for him to make your district better tomorrow than it is today. And I am thrilled to be the one selected to work with Kirk. As he said, we have a long history together, and I could have said no, but I said yes. I was thrilled to be with him. So you may see me at the school committee meetings. You may see me walking around the district with Kirk. You may see me at some of your leadership team meetings for those of you who are administrators on the screen right now. But I am thrilled to be here, and I'll also tell you, I think that you did a fantastic job in hiring Kirk Downing to be your next superintendent. I think that he will not disappoint you. He cares desperately and deeply about students. And I think that if you haven't already seen that, you will see that shortly. So thank you for the welcome. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jane, and thanks for the kind words. In addition to mentor, Jane is a critical friend. Dr. McCarthy and I have had some conversations about that. Of your critical friends are the folks that not only support you, they put questions in front of you that challenge you to think and make you analyze your own decisions in an effort to try to find what is the best solution to the problems that we're solving. So I thank you for that as well, Jane. So moving on in the report, you'll see I will make it a regular practice to post how our vaccination rates are going in the schools. And as we saw from the mandate that was issued by the commissioner, given authority by the State Board of Education, 80% was laid out as a metric for schools being able to have optional masking down the road. We'll learn more about that in the coming weeks. But some questions have been asked about how do we look in our metrics around the system. And so I've posted them here. You may have heard me refer to the staff as over 90% vaccinated before. Well, the reason why you see 88 now is we have people leave the system, and the new people that have come into the system are not caught up in the queue yet. And then we also don't have vaccination status from people that may have received their vaccination out of the state. So our nurses are working on collecting that information. And so that percentage will grow as we get those pieces of data in there. And then when you look at the middle schools, you'll see I've broken out the 7th and 8th grade totals for you. That's an aggregate of the 7th and 8th grade together. And then if you were to average that with the total students in the school, that's the second number. So for instance, Florence Sawyer, 78% of the 7th and 8th graders have been vaccinated. And when you average that with the 6th graders, because I wanted Florence Sawyer to be comparative to both Hale and Luther Burbank, that would be an overall rate of 52%. So that's how these numbers read. I will continue to come back to them. You can see NASHOBA High School is up to 82%. I got my most recent numbers on NASHOBA High School today, and they're up to 84% at this point. So we know that the key to really putting this pandemic into check is through vaccinations, as we've been told by public health officials. So we'll continue to monitor that, communicate with our community as a way to just give feedback on this is how we're doing in the school system relative to that metric. But on that note, at this point in time, I want to invite Lisa Gobecki, our nurse leader, into the room. And she is going to talk a little bit about COVID-19 testing and how that's coming along.
Great. Thank you for having me. As always, nice to see everybody. So just a quick update on where we're standing as a district. When we talk about the old term of pool testing is now called routine COVID safety checks. That's the terminology they'd like us to use now for that process. We have all kits available. They've been shipped already to central office for the pooling. We have also the Abbott Bionex Now test kits in plenty, again, at central office, ready to be distributed to schools for your symptomatic testing and also your test and stay. We are still continuing we send consents out to the adult population, which is our staff and faculty, and central office to sign up to receive testing if they choose to do so, as well as the consents have gone out to parents for their children to sign up for that. It was just sent out yesterday for students, so I had a lot of questions today from parents. So I don't have the exact data of how many that have signed up yet, because I felt a lot of them needed those answers before they went ahead and made decisions regarding consenting. So I can definitely share those numbers within the next day or two with Superintendent Downing to be able to share with all of you. The next steps, I'm in the process of, we are just on another webinar, which is office hours with IC Health, which is the portal we'll be using to upload data for testing that's done. We're waiting on guidance from a project coordinator that's coming from this company that will help assist us setting this up and getting it running, starting at the high school. Our goal, my goal was a little ambitious. I wanted 2 days. I wanted September 7th. It's just not running as quickly for all school districts. They needed a little bit more time. So we're hoping within the next week or two, we can at least start the process there of the testing. Kirk, was there anything else you wanted me to add?
I just wanted to add that one of the hangups that we know that the state is having right now is assigning a project coordinator for us.
Yeah.
We must have the state provide a project coordinator on the testing for us, as our nurse teams, they have full-time jobs with being the nurses in their schools. And so as we learn more, I will certainly update the committee on where we're on that process. And we can go ahead and include the testing sign-up percentages in the regular updates, as well as when I update on the vaccination percentages.
Perfect. And we're hoping to get that project manager assigned. We're seeing schools, Cambridge just got theirs, Melrose, I think, was the other one that we just got, Groton, Dunstable. So they're starting to be supplied to schools. So we're hoping that we're pretty close. I'm begging.
Thank you, Ms. Gobecki. The last piece I have in
Kirk, do you mind
Yes,
if I interrupt you? I'm so sorry.
please.
Would you like us to ask questions of Lisa now, or would you like to wait until the end of your update?
Why don't we just finish the update, and then we'll just take questions as a whole,
Fantastic. Thank you.
sort of press conference style, if you will. So the last piece here is on the upcoming focus groups that I'm going to be hosting. This is all part of the entry plan process, Madam Chair. So I think I'll talk about the entry plan at the same time, even though it's another item. In front of you, you have the superintendent's entry plan. We've had discussions both in our individual one-on-one interviews at the retreat, in our meetings. So this plan is just that. It is the sketch, the outline of what activities I'm going to be doing over the course of the next 6 months to really get a deep understanding of the school system and be able to sort of cultivate some findings that are going to be actionable for us to begin doing some strategic work in the district. And so rather than go through the entire memo, I can just outline that it's through core values that I possess that I'm going to be examining all the various things in the school system. We're going to be doing observations in schools and classrooms, which began today, I might add. We'll be looking at our leadership team and the roles and the responsibilities of the leadership team, and how we're operating in terms of the team in reaching school objectives. There's a lot of key documents. I think what you're going to find in this entry plan process is the key documents section of this is going to continue to grow and grow and grow and grow throughout the next few months as I come across important artifacts that are to be considered during the process. The stakeholder conversations have been going on for quite some time now, since I began on July 1 with individual interviews. And that's what brings me into the focus group conversations I'm going to be having in the coming months. The strategy I ultimately decided on in doing the focus group strategies to keep myself paced and to gather good information is knowing our school committee meetings are every other Wednesday. I am going to be doing my conversations with the community on the opposite Wednesdays of school committee meetings. Thus, I know on Wednesday evenings, I'm going to be out doing the things I need to do around the school district. So our first meeting is going to be September 15th at NASHOBA High School. That is specifically sponsored by our Special Education Parent Advisory Council, the CPAC. I thought it'd be an important part to kick off the community meetings with some families that had some questions. And this is really going to be a meet and greet opportunity. All those families that do come to the CPAC meeting are also invited to come to one of the other school-based meetings as I present some generalized questions around vision of the school district, our assets, and some challenges that we see in front of us that we're going to have to strategize our way through. But then I will be going September 29th to the Center School, October 13th to Luther Burbank, October 27th to Florence Sawyer, back to NASHOBA Regional High School on November 10th. And then I'm going to do a virtual online entry plan meeting for families that can't attend those other meetings in person. So that'll give me the opportunity to connect with the communities in ways that are central to some of those questions that I'll be asking. And then from talking to key constituents in the entry plan process, I will also be hosting the same kind of conversations with our faculty and staff. So I'm currently working with our building principals on scheduling those moments for me to interface with the faculty and staff in the same sort of spirit and process of gathering information in the school system. The sample interview questions are provided here in the packet, as well as a timeline for expectations along the way. I think it's important to note that all along the way of this entry process through the school committee meetings, I will be providing some updates on how the entry process is going. And maybe there's some key findings that we need to be speaking about and thinking about prior to the formal presentation of the findings of the entry plan, which, Madam Chair, I forecast us looking at in March. So if we can look to the March school committee dates as an opportunity, not only for myself, but also for Ms. Boynton to present our findings on our entry plans, so that as we gather up that information from the outcomes of the entry plan, we can then begin sort of our strategic work on what's next in building a 3 to 5 year vision for the school system. So with that summary, I'm happy to take any questions that you have on those things.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Superintendent Downing? Mike.
I thank you for that update. I've got 2 questions for you. If I am a resident looking to find the most updated vaccination rate numbers, am I waiting for the bi-weekly superintendent's update, or will we be posting that similar to how we posted COVID cases on the data dashboard?
Mr. Haresh, I think posting the vaccination rates and the weekly update to the community is an excellent way to keep our community informed as well. So I can post it in my regular weekly update.
Okay, great. And then the other question, it's sort of related, but if I'm a community member looking to review that entry plan, where would I find that?
It's currently posted in the school committee meeting materials, so you can find that link right there. And then I can also work with Ms. Masterson on how to access. We can post that information to the website as well.
Great. Thank you.
Did I see Amy's hand? Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, thank you. I think my questions are in a similar vein to Mr. Haresh's. If I am a community member trying to remember or find the dates of the forums that you're having, I know you sent an email out to parents, but would it be possible to put them on the district's calendar as well so people can find them there?
You bet. I can talk to Ms. Masterson about that as well.
Okay, and then if I were planning on attending, did you share the format? Are these meet and greets, or should people be coming prepared with questions, or is this your?
That's a great question, Ms. Coleman.
Yeah, thank you.
I believe in processing through protocols.
Mm-hmm.
So when I bring the groups together, I'm going to give an opportunity for our community members to work in groups, to have discussions with each other around the key questions that I posted there, and then to be able to gather that information so I can get a gathering of the community feedback. Because these questions are all they're big, broad questions to get a sense of what's important in the school system. They're not necessarily conversations about the very specifics of what may be going on with your child. In that instance, you would want to work through your child's teacher or your building principal in terms of maybe the specific things about your student. These are the big overarching questions. I will add, I sent the entry plan out to the community last Friday. There should have been a link there as well. So I will continue to regularly update that and be sharing it with folks. So these are those dates. I think it's important to note too, while I'm going to each of the towns along the way in these processes, that doesn't necessarily mean that if one date doesn't work for you and you live in Stowe, you're more than welcome to go to the Lancaster meeting. It's going to be the same meeting, just sort of replicated each week. So if you can't attend your own schools or your town schools, you can go to any of the meetings.
Awesome. That was going to be my last question. I thought I remembered reading that somewhere, but I was trying to pull up the email that had it in there and I was already having a hard time finding it. So thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman.
I think I see Karen. Go ahead, Karen.
These questions might be more for Lisa about the routine COVID safety checks. So I just want to make sure I understand. So we're starting with the high school as the first school that will be tested. Is that correct?
Correct. With the weekly routine COVID safety checks, they'll be swabbing twice. So if they in the pool, the 5 to 10 individuals will go into one tube. They will each have their own separate tube. So if that tube becomes positive, they can. We won't have to wait to swab them again. The swabs will already be in the lab, and then they will be able to test those at the same time. Nobody will need to quarantine until we get results back.
Okay. So, and I know we're waiting to have somebody assigned to us to get this up and running, but do you have a rough timeline of when you think once it's up and running at the high school, it will move to the other schools in the district?
Not at this time. I think we're looking still at vaccine rates and also some guidance from DESE and DPH, but we would hope, Superintendent Downing, I don't know if we got this far in discussing. We probably want to make sure that we have a solid plan in place and protocol, and that it's going smoothly, and then move it on to middle school and then eventually elementary.
I had experience working with this company last year that worked through DESE, and we went through a growing pain period in the initial couple of weeks. So once we get it up and running, my hope is that within 2 weeks after that, we can start moving into the middle schools for our testing protocols. But we want to work out the shorts in the system first before we expand it to the other buildings.
And I just have one other question. So is that also the reason that we're starting with the high school? I'm just wondering, because since the high school has the highest vaccination rate and obviously elementary schools do not, the chances of there being more positive cases may be more in an elementary school. So is it because it's just easier to kind of get high schoolers up with that routine and work out the glitches that we're doing it that way?
Yeah, and it's also going to give us some data sets on with the higher vaccination rates, with the masking period up to October 1, is the pool testing pulling out cases that we normally wouldn't have detected. So it's the high school is actually, I think, the most fertile ground to do that, to test our mitigation strategies as well, since students that are younger than 12 don't have access to the vaccine.
Great, thank you.
Else might have a question. Go ahead, Sharon.
So my question is back to the topic that Mike and Amy were talking about with the focus groups. And forgive me if I missed this. I may have read it and haven't processed it yet. So those focus groups are based on a series of questions. Has that, will that information be presented with the focus group information so that when parents are coming, they've had a chance to, they're prepared for that, so they know that the questions, that's the format, and they have a chance to think about the questions ahead of time? I guess what I'm thinking is that two things. It might be nice to know, for parents to think about those questions and what their thoughts are surrounding those things ahead of time, but also that I think a lot of people just want to connect. And so it would be advantageous maybe to be sure that people are aware that there's a structure to those focus groups.
Yes, I'll be publishing the structure and the format of the focus groups in order to glean out the information that I need to glean out, because I want them to be tight and efficient meetings. And they're not town halls per se, where I'm fielding questions from the audience. They are participation seminar style meetings where people are discussing the information, discussing the questions, and we record the thinking. So yes, they will get that information. The CPAC meeting will be different. The CPAC meeting is the one meeting that's different than the others. I have spoken with our CPAC, and we're going to make that a meet and greet opportunity to engage with our CPAC families.
Thanks, Sharon. Any other questions about the superintendent's report? I just had one quick question for Lisa. Lisa, can parents consent to one kind of testing and opt out of the other, or is it a package deal?
Currently, it is a package deal. I will investigate a little further into that. Yes, I'll have to get back to you on that. But currently, as it stands today, it's an all or none. With hopes that may change. It was mentioned at one of the DESE webinars that it's an all-in-one. Heard a little conflicting from the company today, so I need to clarify some on that before we move forward. But as parents ask the questions today, it is definitely an all or none at this point, and we will clarify that if it changes.
And do you need a certain percentage of consent before this program can be effective?
We will run with the program regardless of how many sign up and move from there. We would like to see over 70% that want to participate, and we're really encouraging families to do that. As it stands right now, to do the pool testing, in order to test and stay, it's really important that they're part of the program. For example, if they have to quarantine, they would not be able to participate in the test and stay if they're not doing the pool testing. And then that's time at home where they could actually be at school and not having a quarantine. So really encouraging families and staff members to participate.
Thanks, Lisa. Any other questions? Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, I did find the email that Superintendent Downing sent out to parents about the focus groups, and it led me to another question, which was whether there is a specific goal that you have, Superintendent Downing, for receiving feedback, or a requirement that you need for feedback on the ESSER 3 plan. I see that you linked a feedback form and.
Yeah, that relates specifically to the ESSER 3 grant, and that's not on the agenda tonight, so
Okay.
I don't know if I can speak to that.
Okay. I was just trying to give you a plug.
Oh, thank you. But here's what I will say, Ms. Cohen, related to that, is the entry, the ESSER 3 survey that we sent out a few weeks ago, along with the 3 surveys I've sent out so far, all of that information contributes to my overall understanding of our school system and the people around us. So yes, in that way, those surveys provide me that kind of data. The survey, the style of survey that you received, both with the masking recommendation and then with this the opening guide, those were less a survey and more a methodology of providing a text box where people could provide feedback, and it all goes to one location in order to digest it efficiently. So
this was actually a feedback form on the reopening plan, right?
The reopening plan, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the reopening plan is directly tied to the ESSER 3 grant. And so in the reopening plan, the information people gain back certainly will help inform me on the entry findings.
Okay, and I didn't mean to lead us away from an agenda item, but I was confused.
No, we got it back, Ms. Cohen. It tied right in there.
Okay.
All right, guys, any other questions for the superintendent report? Sharon.
I just want to ask Lisa for a little bit of clarification. I think that what you just told Leah was that people that are participating in the pooled testing do not have to quarantine in the same way as those that would not be participating in the pooled testing if they are exposed or close contact?
Correct. If they are a close contact and they do not sign consents for test and stay and pool testing, which currently right now, the consensus for all 3, it's an all or nothing. So in essence, they'd be in the pool testing pool. It's not that the pool testing is preventing them. It's just they're consenting to all. If they don't consent to that, the test and stay, they would have to follow those same protocols similar to last year. The guidelines still say that they're under 6 feet or within 6 feet of a close positive individual. They would have to quarantine, test on day 5, can return on day 8 if they're negative. The test and stay allows them to be tested for between 5 to 7 days in school, so they wouldn't have to quarantine, but they'd be tested on a daily basis at school. Does that answer your question?
It does. So the clarification there is that by participating in the testing, then it's less quarantining.
Correct.
Okay.
Potentially, yes. And for those that are fully vaccinated, which means 14 days out from their second dose or 14 days after the J&J, they would not have to participate in the test and stay. They are exempt from quarantine because they're fully vaccinated. It's a little complex, so every scenario we have to kind of digest a little bit and make sure that we're doing everything following the guidelines and protocols.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. Can you all hear me? Okay. Any other questions? Amy.
I'm so sorry to ask one more, but that led me to wonder if we have an 86% vaccination rate at the high school and you need 70% participation to make, now I'm a little confused about, because I have 2 high schoolers, they're vaccinated. I gave consent for this. We're not calling it pooled testing anymore, but I guess I'm thinking after hearing you say that vaccinated students don't have to participate, I'm worried about getting to a 70% participation rate.
So I will share with you though, that regardless of vaccine status, if they have symptoms, which is on that symptom list, they still have to test. So there is some potential for quarantine. We are seeing breakthroughs in people that are fully vaccinated, as you've probably seen on the news as well. CDC and DPH have confirmed that we're seeing some breakthrough, that people that are fully vaccinated are becoming COVID positive with the new variants. So there's still some testing that will need to happen in schools with fully vaccinated as well if they come down with symptoms. Ms. Cohen, does that answer your question a little bit, or did I confuse you more?
I think that I just want to make sure that the takeaway is that it's still in everybody's best interest.
Correct.
To opt in to this, even if your child is vaccinated. That's kind of the conclusion I reached. So
yes.
Say that just my observation of being a teacher in a building where we're grappling with this and a parent, it would be amazing if we had a flow chart that all the parents could have in their hands that said, vaccinated, not vaccinated, and you go, in that direction. If you're vaccinated, have you consented? Yes or no? And it drives us in the direction of our individual circumstance. I'm not sure if that's I'm a visual learner, so maybe I'm crazy, but to have that visual, I think would be super helpful for parents to figure out this maze of regulation. So I don't know if maybe that already exists somewhere, or we can just copy and paste.
It exists on the DESE website. However, sometimes the quick little flow charts like that, there's other scenarios. So just wanted to, allude to the fact that sometimes you don't see the whole picture, that nursing can't share the whole picture, where we have to be compliant with HIPAA regulations and confidentiality of students. So what may look like something happened in one family, it doesn't always mimic the same family. So sometimes when you look at flow chart, you're saying, well, this student or staff member was allowed to do this, but this one wasn't. And without knowing the background information that we know, it's sometimes hard to come to those conclusions, but it is available on the DESE website.
For parents
We'll
follow.
look to providing something simple for you.
Yeah.
Something simple. Thank you, Kirk. Yeah. All right, guys. Yeah, Rich, question?
I just want to say I'm looking at the DESE flowchart, and it's pretty complex. So just speaking to the nurse leader, I think it's hard to boil it down, but there is one that perhaps we can use.
Thanks, Rich.
Madam Chair, I would be
Yes.
remiss if I did not introduce Dr. Todd McGuire as well, to introduce the teaching and learning portion of the superintendent's report tonight.
Great.
Thank you, Superintendent. Good evening, everyone. Just an update for you folks as well as the community on the teaching and learning department, what we've been up to over the summer and where we're heading this year. The department continues to work on providing engaging professional development opportunities for faculty and staff to transfer into their work with students. We were fortunate to be able to offer 2 summer academies this summer. What I've done in the superintendent's report is linked all the important links in there for the community as well as for you folks if you want some further information. So what I've done is linked the Faculty Summer Academy brochure for everyone if they want to take a look at the offerings that we had for our staff over the summer. It was very successful in terms of providing our teachers and staff with multiple resources that were specifically tied to social emotional learning, which is a tremendous focus for our work this year, as it has been over the past few years, specifically with our work with the Collaborative for Academic and Social Emotional Learning, also known as CASEL. We offered several unique workshops on social emotional learning, as well as inclusive practices for universal design for learning, also known as UDL. Equity in the classroom. We also offered some work around first aid, mentor training for our new teachers that arrived this year, and a concentrated work group for our new social studies curricula with a specific focus on the civic engagement piece. So each of these workshops and resources provided an entry point into our work ahead for this year. So as we build on the goals that are in our district improvement plan, we continue to place a strong emphasis on social emotional learning, and we will provide 4 district-based professional development days this year on this topic where we are training the staff on best practices in the classroom for transfer to our students. This ties to our work with the S3 Academy grant that we received 3 years ago, as well as our work with the Excel program. The other summer academy we offered was for students. We took advantage of the grant opportunity and received grant funds to offer a summer acceleration academy for students. This was a focus for our early literacy students, math, as well as math at the 8th and 10th grades. We had over 55 students attend, and it was tremendously successful to help accelerate those learners who needed some acceleration over the summer. And then finally, our district book read this year is Equity by Design by Katie Novak. Is intended to serve as a roadmap where collaborating teachers are the architects to change the traditional outcomes for students and make the link between social justice, another major topic of this year, as well as universal design for learning. The author, Katie Novak, articulates that the goal is to equip every student and teacher, as well as teachers, to promote positive change in schools where they have the opportunity to succeed. We just signed the contract with Katie this week, so she'll be joining us in March and doing a keynote, as well as hopefully a workshop with us at our March Professional Development Day. So we're looking forward to that and thrilled to have her in March. So thanks very much. And our first early release PD day will be next Friday, September 17th.
Madam Chair, I would like to emphasize to the committee that in addition to Dr. McGuire's normally scheduled responsibilities, he was able to put together these learning programs for our students to combat some of the learning gaps that we wanted to grow for some of our students, while also transitioning the school system from one superintendent to the next superintendent. And so the work that he's put forward in making these summer programs be successful while doing these other things that really go beyond the scope of the assistant superintendent tells us how dedicated Dr. McGuire is. So just want to thank him publicly.
Thank you very much for that. But the transition with this new superintendent, he also made it very easy to make this transition. So I thank you as well. But great summer, and took a village for sure to put these programs together and the programming that we're bringing forth. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Todd. That's terrific. And I see Mary's hand. Go ahead, Mary.
It does. And I want to follow up in regard to not only the wonderful work that Dr. McGuire and Teaching and Learning have done with the teachers in social emotional learning, but I just want to acknowledge a person who was a colleague of mine, Dr. Roger P Weissberg, and I read today that he had died. And so I just want to read a little bit about Roger. He was one of the earliest supporters and leading voices for social and emotional learning. He dedicated his career to improving the lives of children. He was Castle's Chief Knowledge Officer, Board Vice Chair, and co-founder, as well as Distinguished Emeritus Professor of Psychology at the University of Illinois at Chicago. For the past 4 decades, he inspired scholars and practitioners to innovate, design, implement, and evaluate strategies for working with families, schools, and communities to promote SEL. And not only was Roger so well learned, he was a great person. When he talked to you, you felt that he really was listening to you and valued you as a person. So I just wanted to acknowledge his passing and the incredible contributions that Roger made.
Thanks, Mary. Appreciate that. All right. And so Superintendent Downing, will that do it for the update?
Yes, Madam Chair, that's all.
All right. So we're going to move now to new business. Only 4 minutes behind. Fantastic. Well done, people. First item on the agenda here for new business is to revote the 21-22 school year calendar to include a handful of NASHOBA High School late start dates. And I do have a motion perhaps on the floor, Mr. Horish? Or would you like to give us a motion?
Sure, I'm happy to provide one. I move to approve the revised 2021-2022 school year district calendar to include late starts at NASHOBA Regional High School on September 27th, 2021, October 18th, 2021, November 15th, 2021, January 10th, 2022, March 7th, 2022 and May 2nd, 2022.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Rich. Can we open this up for discussion if there is any? Seeing none, we will take a vote. Oh, I'm sorry, Amy, go ahead. Question?
Yeah, I just would like some clarification on what does, in the meeting materials, there's a letter and it references PLT days. But I actually don't know what that means. And I just also want to clarify what the late start time would be, because there's a lot of people who, this didn't happen last year. You know, it was an unusual year leading up to this. So just a little bit more information on how this would look.
Madam
Absolutely.
Chair, I'd like to invite Kathleen Boynton, or Dr. Boynton, our high school principal, to answer that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Downing. Ms. Cohen, thank you so much, by the way, for having me at the meeting. I greatly appreciate it, and it's a pleasure to be here. So the PLT stands for professional learning time. This year, the late starts are going to be pretty exclusively focused around the vision work for the building project. There's a lot of work that we need to get accomplished in preparation for the architect once the OPM hopefully is moved forward by the MSBA on Monday of next week. So we'll have a pretty clear timeline of things that need to get accomplished, and we'll be using that time by and large for that work. Moving in sort of a mixture between some full faculty and large group into thematically based teams that existed and worked last year around, themes like equity and wellness, for example, and then working in department-based teams, because there's a lot of department-based curriculum visioning work that needs to get done as well in order to prepare for the architecture. We have to revise the full ed plan and do visioning work for who we want to become and be, and what do we want the learning experiences to be for our NASHOBA Regional High School students in the future with this new innovative building. And so that's really the work that's going to be taking place. It'll look a little different than what PLT time looked like in years prior, because the building project really is taking this front seat in this. And I don't have the hours off the top of my head, so I believe that they're in the calendar that's been published. And I believe, in Tania, you're on the call, so you might know better, more historical knowledge. I believe it's 2 hours. It's like a 2-hour delay schedule.
Correct. That's what we've done in the past.
And that we did exactly in terms of time frame, the hours, we did exactly what has been done in years past for the number of hours.
Thank you. That was a great explanation, and I'm so excited to hear that you're going to be using the time for the building project, because
yes, yeah,
that's like my baby. So okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Boynton. Really appreciate it, and really appreciate you being here. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go for the vote. I vote yes. Dr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Horish?
Yes.
Mr. Windsor?
Yes.
Mr. Gleason?
Yes.
Oh, it just jumped on me. Sorry. Ms. Devine?
Yes.
Ms. Pock?
Yes.
Mr. Eckel?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Did I successfully get everybody? Fantastic. The motion passes unanimously. So those late starts will go into effect. Community members, keep in mind September 27th is the first one, so you have a couple of weeks to plan. And that's that. Next on the agenda, we have some fantastic news that I am going to turn this to Superintendent Downing. It is an award acknowledgement.
I'm actually going to again invite Dr. Boynton to present an award to Tania Rich, our athletic director at NASHOBA High School.
Thank you, Superintendent Downing. Well, it is my distinct pleasure to announce that Tania Rich, CMAA and Director of Athletics at our own NASHOBA Regional High School, received the 2021 NIAAA State Award of Merit. She was actually given the Award of Merit during the Massachusetts Secondary School Athletic Directors Association State Conference the week of May 4th, but was not really made public until or an official press release until August. So August 5th, the press release came out, and this annual award is provided by the National Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association to an athletic administrator from each state for recognition of meritorious dedication to high school and middle school athletics. They go on to share that Ms. Rich has been an athletic administrator and NIAAA member for 10 years. Since 2011, she's attended every NIAAA conference, national conference, and was a moderator at the 2018 National Conference. Furthermore, she's a secretary on the MSS ADA Executive Board and was the Massachusetts delegate at the National Conference from 2011 to 2014. And in the short time that I've been working with Tania, she's amazing and well-deserved of this award. And in fact, she's at a field hockey game as we speak in the press box. So congratulations, Tania. Could not have come to a better person.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Superintendent Downing, Dr. McGuire, and the entire school committee for the wonderful and beautiful flowers that I received today in my office. They're on my desk. I truly appreciate it. I love working for this district and working with everybody here, and I can't say thank you enough.
And girls varsity is up 1-0, right?
Yes, they are. They just scored in a quarter.
Awesome.
That's such great news. Tania, I was at the high school earlier today, picking up my son around 5, and the place was packed with kids and buses and parents. And it's just amazing what you do after school, so many hours. So thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great. All right, so we'll move over to our next agenda item, and that is to approve the contract of the district physician. Perhaps, Mr. Horish, you can take this away as well for a motion.
Sure, I'm happy to. I move to authorize the superintendent to sign the 2021-2022 school year physician's contract between the district and Dr. Russell Coleman. Dr. Coleman will receive a $2,000 stipend under the terms of the contract.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Eckel. Let's open this up for discussion if there is any. Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, I was wondering if the superintendent or other administrators could give any kind of context for the stipend amount that we're proposing. I was kind of, to be honest, I was a little shocked at the amount. But I don't really have anything to compare it to, and thinking that this job may not be that many hours, but it probably comes with taking on some risk. So anyway, I was just curious, like, is this par for what district physicians get paid? Seems low to me.
I'm going to ask Ms. Gilbecki, our nurse leader, to answer this question.
Yeah, it's pretty comparable to what we've seen in other school districts. Other school districts are a little bit less, a little bit more. We're probably right in the medium for that. I will share with you that Dr. Russell Coleman, we meet quite often. He reviews all of our protocols and policies before we send them to approvals. Any change that we need, he writes our standing orders annually. And he is definitely my liaison and right-hand person, even on weekends. If I'll text him and say, I need an answer to this, please check your emails if at all possible. He does. And we do consult with him on a lot of cases in our district that we want that professional response for our own backing as a liability of a district. And he's always willing and able to do that. He also signs the wrestling waivers for the athletic departments, et cetera. The list goes on. He really does a lot for our district, and he does it in a quick and efficient manner for us.
You think that that's an appropriate stipend? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying? Okay.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, I'm going to take the roll. I say yes. Dr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Windsor,
Yes.
Mr. Horish,
Yes.
Mr. Gleason,
Yes.
Ms. Devine,
Yes.
Ms. Pock,
Yes.
Mr. Eckel,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
No.
Mr. Collins.
Yes.
All right. So the motion passed. Alita, what was the vote?
9-1 because there's one absent.
All right, 9-1. Thank you. All right, guys, let's move on to our next agenda item. And that is the MASC conference, which is upcoming on November 3rd. We are also set to meet while that conference is happening. And so we need to understand if we're going to have a quorum for that evening. Alita, am I correct in my summary here?
Yes.
So is there anybody who is thinking about, because it is kind of getting late to register, is anybody thinking about going to this MASC conference, which is on the Cape, Alita?
Yes, the only ones I haven't heard from are Rich and Sean. Everybody else has told me whether they are or are not going. Mr. Gleason is the only one that has stated he's going. And of course, Dr. McGuire will be there.
Okay, so no pressure to answer the question now. You said Sean and Rich?
Sean had contacted me and asked some further questions. I think he's just trying to make his decision.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big deal. So I think that regardless, we will have a quorum that evening.
Yes.
That said, people, would you want us to reschedule considering you wouldn't be able to attend the meeting? Let's just open it up a little bit to questions or thoughts. Mary, was I seeing your hand up?
Mm-hmm, yes. So some of us will be attending remotely. And so at this point, I don't know how many other people are attending remotely. I'd like to attend remotely. And I signed, just me, all by myself. Okay. All right. So it's just what I was going to say is I don't know what the schedule is and whether there'd be some scintillating evening discussion that I'd want to go to that would be more exciting than a school committee meeting. I just don't know. I can't imagine. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
Mary, would you want us to reschedule the school committee meeting if you are intrigued to attend an MASC workshop that night?
I'd rather not miss a school committee meeting. However, I don't, that doesn't seem as if there are many of us. It might be a little close. And if it's remote and we found that I would just be there. So I would be here with you remotely rather than there with the people on the Cape.
Okay. I mean,
so don't decide by me because I would choose school committee.
And I know that, Joe, you are actually traveling there. I mean, you could Zoom into the meeting from the Cape if you were so inclined. What are your thoughts?
Madam Chairman, if you're soliciting my opinion, I would insist that we keep to the schedule, and I'd be happy to attend remotely. I agree with Dr. McCarthy. I would much prefer to be at this meeting than any of the dinner meetings and speeches that will invariably not be as exciting as that school committee meeting. So I would insist that we keep to the schedule.
This just warms my heart, everyone. It's great. You'd all rather be here. Terrific. All right, so Alita, no, they're there.
Yeah, you have seven absolutes for the school committee, so you do have a quorum.
Great. Oops. Okay. So that is that for new business. Now we get to move on to something so exciting, and that is finalizing our school committee goals for the 2021-2022 school year. And for those of us, for the public, just so that you all know, the school committee joined together on August 25th, as they do annually, for their retreat. And that retreat was very fun, planned by Alita wonderfully. And at that retreat, we, our main goal was to set goals. We ran out of time. And so we were able to establish 2 goals that we were comfortable with and that we all agreed to. But there's still some kind of material on the table, some things that you perhaps want to also push into the goal category. And at this point, I think it would be good if I shared with you my screen so that we could all kind of remember where we were. Can you guys all see that? Step 2 and funneled goals. Give me a thumbs up if you can see it. Fantastic. I can only see 4 of you at a time right now. So Mike, can I put you in charge of kind of pointing out who has questions and wants to jump in the conversation? So basically what I did here on step number 2, these are all the things that you guys brainstormed for our goals. I have kind of highlighted them into like categories. And so, for example, this bullet right here, right, bullets 1, 3, and 4, and 6 are all colored that pink color because they're all kind of communication oriented. And it's probably a good idea to have some sort of a communication goal, considering all of the things that you guys brought up at the retreat that are important to you. And so I wonder if we could talk a little bit about that. What do you think there? And Mike, again, I'll rely on you to call on people.
I don't see any hands up.
Does anybody think, do you guys basically think that it would be a good idea to have a communication goal?
I don't know if that was rhetorical, but I've got Amy with a question followed by Rich.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I don't, are you calling on me first, Mike?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I think it's a great idea to have a communication related goal. I'm in favor of that idea, and I'd love to come up with one as a group or suggest one.
All the while keeping in mind, everyone, that our goals, the genesis of the, or rather the preliminary work toward each goal will happen in subcommittees. So if we want a communication goal, we don't necessarily have to hash it out perfectly right now. We would task the communication committee, subcommittee, to do that for us, and fairly shortly here. So if that's something that you all are amenable to, we can push that down to the funneled goals. So without objection, I'm going to do that.
Rich, I'm not sure if you still have a question, but you're next.
No, there was just deafening silence when Leah was searching for feedback, and I was just simply going to say that I liked it.
Okay. So the other thing that you guys brainstormed the other day when we were together is this notion of kind of better understanding our roles as school committee members and making sure that we are kind of getting back into more of a norm in the way that we operate. And I also saw something that somebody mentioned, it might've been Karen and me in our group, where we talked about, perhaps building in some trainings for school committee members around various topics. And so I color coded those blue because I think they're kind of related, and it's ultimately school committee professional development. And last year we did a lot of this and I found it really helpful. So any thinking on that? Yeah, Mike, jump in.
Perhaps this is obvious to some, but I wonder if this is something where we can partner up with MASC to provide some of those trainings or workshops. And in the past, we've had Dorothy Presser come and kind of clarify things like our role, our purview. And I think that speaks to some of the individual prioritizations in step number 2. And then we can sort of broaden that under an umbrella goal of these sorts of trainings, whether it's finance, budgeting, purview, roles, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I see Rich's hand. Go ahead, Rich. Rich, can you unmute? Sorry.
I swear I've done this before. So I just want to, forgive me if I'm seeing the obvious, but there's also this regional school district
Mars,
right? Yeah. So I don't believe we took advantage of any of that training last year, and they provide training specifically on regional schools, specifically around finance. So, I mean, I feel like MASC has done a fine job for us. I'd love to cross-train from another organization, especially one that's sort of dedicated to us. So any training, I'd love to just compare and contrast. And of course, MASC does a great job, but let's take advantage of all the resources.
Got it. I actually have an email out to Mars, and so I'm waiting to hear back from them. So that's good. Go ahead, Mary.
So I can't think of any goal that's more important or foundational to our school committee than engaging in a process to increase knowledge and understanding of the role of school committee. But I would also say the role of superintendent of schools. And as I was thinking about this, I thought about MASC, I thought about Mars, but I also thought about our superintendent in conjunction with the school committee presenting too. And I mean, I had surveys and things like that. And I think as it comes into the definition of the role of superintendent, then that comes into our evaluation of superintendent and perhaps the personnel subcommittee. But to me, there is that understanding of the role of school committee and the role of superintendent and budgeting and having more professional development so that it's not just the knowledge, but the understanding and of how we can interact more successfully together. I don't think there's anything more important. And I'm just putting COVID to the side for 1 second, because that overarches everything. But to our functioning as a successful school committee for our students and our parents, our faculty, it's foundational. And so I'd really like to see that.
Thanks, Mary. Mike, do you see any other hands? Anybody else want to weigh in?
I don't see any other hands, but I actually had just a comment. And I hope this isn't outside of our agenda, but I do think it's related. The communication subcommittee has already met. We've already assigned officers, so we could have sort of an impromptu meeting to hash out this communication goal whenever it's convenient for all of the members. I know we have one scheduled for later on in the month, but if it's something as simple as hashing out this communication goal, I don't know why we wouldn't be able to meet earlier so that we could have this goal in the queue.
Thanks, Mike. I think I saw Amy's hand. Did he beat you to it, Amy? Go ahead.
Yeah, the only other goal I'd like us to consider is having student voice represented on our school committee, something that we tried to do prior to COVID, and it became more complicated because of COVID, but something as simple as have an elected student representative by the end of the year, you know, or just have an elected student representative on the school council.
Thanks, Amy. Go ahead, Karen.
So could we have that as one of our action steps for the communication goal, to have that be something that's accomplished this year, sort of like the listening sessions, if people are amenable to that? I mean, they're in the you know, sort of the brainstorming of our goals, but they could be some of the action steps we take, right?
That sounds right to me. Thumbs up, everybody, if you're hearing what Karen is saying, if you're liking that, or just kind of neutral even. Yeah, I mean, the communication subcommittee can take that and run with it. That's great, Amy. Yeah. Thanks, Karen. All right, so I'm going to put down here this notion of having a goal for professional development for the school committee. Does anybody have an opinion on which subcommittee could kind of tackle this? I know everybody's busy. This could just be me making, like, scheduling trainings, which is totally fine. I'm already kind of doing that. I don't know that we need a lot of subcommittee work here. Yeah. Yeah, Mike?
I'm happy to join in if you need the help.
Anyone else have thoughts on that? Would that be okay if your chair and vice chair just arrange some of these trainings similar to last year?
All in favor, say aye.
Yeah, I know. Give me some thumbs up, guys, if that's feeling like that feels okay. Yeah, okay. Okay. Sure.
Can I ask a question, Leah?
Absolutely.
Are there particular topics, like would it be helpful, maybe not right at this moment, but to brainstorm at some point topics for that professional development to give you some idea of what to look for when if you're looking to set up a workshop or to have somebody come in? I remember last year there was a series, and I don't, if you gave me a few minutes, I'd probably be able to remember them, but I can't pull them out of my head right now. But there was a series of trainings that we did on different topics. I remember finance was one, budgeting was one.
One was legal. There was a legal training.
Right. So on the one hand, there's turnover in the committee and there's always new people coming, and it doesn't hurt to hear things multiple times. That's beneficial. But maybe there are other topics that we want to explore too.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any right now that they can think of that you want me to put down as targets? Besides those two? The other one that seemed to be at the forefront is kind of school committee purview and roles. Okay. Sounds good. So guys, there's still a few things left on the table here, and I just want to point them out really quickly. It feels like the left-hand column we've kind of tackled. There is this protocol revision item that was in the brainstorming, but if nobody is, you know, really fired up about it, I don't know that we necessarily need it to be a goal. It can be maybe an agenda item at a future meeting. Our protocols are in place. Jump in, guys, if I'm saying bunk right now, if you don't like what I'm saying. Amy, what's up?
No, I think it'd be a good exercise to just have everybody to review the protocols, but I don't know if there's a way to do that efficiently or.
No. Does it need to be a goal? Or can it be something that we just do at a meeting? Or should it start in subcommittee?
Well, maybe subcommittee, but I don't know which one. Sounds like it's gonna fall to communications again.
Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
I kind of agree. I don't think that this is a goal-worthy topic. I think it's an important one, but I don't know that it's goal-worthy because I think it would be relatively simple to achieve revision. I don't know that it would take a lot to review and revise those protocols. I think those other ones are considerably more challenging and are goal-worthy, but this one maybe we leave for a future meeting.
So how many of you all are thinking we can just tackle this outside of our goal setting? Give me a thumbs up if you're thinking yeah, or hands up. I am seeing a majority of hands up. And so let's move on. So we just have these last couple of things hanging out here that we were brainstorming at the retreat. We have reimagining teaching and learning via the school building committee. We have the superintendent evaluation and gearing it towards student achievement. And we have a goal about school councils being a representative and effective avenue for change. As we sit right now, we have 4 sturdy goals. We could stick just with what we have, or we could add these to the list, shaping them somehow. Give me some feedback. Go ahead, Amy.
Well, one thought I had as you were putting together this list is that it might be nice to have a goal for each subcommittee. Like we've got, a goal for the communication subcommittee. There appears to be one for the policy subcommittee and for the budget and warrant subcommittee. So the goal for the personnel subcommittee could be that, gearing the superintendent evaluation towards on student achievement focused. And I was trying to check I think that covers our subcommittees. So I personally think that's worthy of adding to our goals because that is so important to what the school committee's purpose is. It's evaluating the superintendent. And it would give the subcommittee direction from the entire committee, which I think is important as well.
Surprise, we're going to do it regardless. Right, Mary?
Well, then you can have a goal that you can just check off and say that you've achieved. Even better.
Why not? Why not make it a goal if it's going to happen anyway? And go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, just to reinforce what Amy was saying, I don't think the folks at home, if people are actually watching, can see what's at the top of this column. But the left-hand column was categorized as for the committee, and the other one is for the district. And I agree with Amy. That seems like something that is really not within our wheelhouse as a school committee, although it could be, again, it could be crafted into superintendent goals. And in that way, it could be just sort of advisement from the committee, sort of like we did last year with the superintendent's goals, how the communications subcommittee came back and made recommendations towards the superintendent's goals. This could be done in very much the same way.
Any other perspective here? Divergent from what you've heard or what people have said? So can you guys give me a thumbs up if you're thinking that the superintendent evaluation should be one of our goals? Thumbs up if yes. Mike, is that a thumbs up? I can't tell.
No, that's a confused look.
Okay.
So making recommendations to the superintendent's goals is something we have done in the past. I don't know, it seems like it's a fine line. I mean, we're certainly not going to say, or maybe we will say, these are some of the goals that we would like to achieve. But in this brainstorming activity that we did, this seems like something that as a collective, we've decided these are important to us. And so I think we just have to decide how we turn these ideas into something that's a little bit more actionable and a little bit more goal focused.
So I think that what I was trying to say is that, and I'm sorry if I confused you, I think that our goal should be to conduct the superintendent evaluation, not necessarily to tell Kirk what his goals are, but to conduct the evaluation process. Although Mary, you can speak more about how the school committee does kind of get involved in the goal setting of the super.
So as you said before, this is some of our responsibility as a school committee, every one of us, that we hire and review, and in dire cases, let go of the superintendent. And in the personnel subcommittee, there is a process of listening to the superintendent's goals and advising. So there's back and forth on that. I certainly think that what Amy talked about in terms of student achievement, that's something that we do anyway. But to have that in mind is, see, we're going to do this. I don't know that it needs a separate goal, but I would like to say that in terms of professional development, that I already have a PowerPoint presentation that I did last year in terms of educating the committee on superintendent evaluation. So we have MASC who would do that. I could do some of that too, because the more we have questions and the more we understand, the better we will be at doing superintendent evaluation. So it's not that I'm adverse to having a goal. And as I suggested before, I think it's imperative that we understand the role of school committee and that we are able to communicate that and understand the role of school committee and our purview, our province, and the role of superintendent. And the areas where those two circles, might come together, but there's lots of areas where they are separate. And so I'm really dedicated in this last year that I'm going to be on school committee to having this school committee understand and be able to demonstrate that we know what a school committee does. And we don't go over into the realm of superintendent. Or if we do, it's brought to our attention and we move back because we have plenty to do as a school committee. And the superintendent, as we know, has plenty to do as superintendent. But the more we understand, and I've said this before, I do not believe that our committee right now fully understands, even with the professional development we've had, understands the role of school committee versus the role of superintendent. And so on the personnel subcommittee, that's something that I would like to try to help with in terms of professional development, because we will function so much better and everything will move so much more smoothly when we understand that and we can all articulate it. And that's why I was coming up with surveys, a baseline survey so we could start out, and then another survey further on when we've had some of the professional development to be able to decide, are we there? Do we really understand this now? And we might not like some of what our purview is versus what the superintendent's purview and responsibility and roles. But it's law. And I think that we need to think about that. So I don't know that it needs to be a separate goal because we do it anyway, but I'm happy to provide. And also, I think that as Leah and I work with Kirk, we will be giving updates to the whole committee and soliciting feedback from the committee in terms of the goals. So that's part of what we'll be doing anyway.
All right, thank you, Mary. Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, I feel as if I've opened a little bit of a can of worms, and that when I read this, I had a totally different interpretation of what this bullet meant. So I guess what I thought that bullet that says super evaluation shows progress towards student achievement meant was that, and I couldn't see the heading, so I didn't see that was intended for the district, but I guess I was thinking that when we are crafting the goals for the superintendent, that the personnel subcommittee would be doing so with a view towards student achievement. I think that's how I was looking at that. Not that, I don't really think that we need a goal that says we're going to do a superintendent evaluation, because aren't we required to do that anyway? Like, that's our.
So I will say that every school committee, I've read through so many school committee goals that that are posted out there, that are out there, but I've read through a ton. And every single one of them has the evaluation as one of their goals, because it's just one of the nuts and bolts of our job. It's such a slam dunk for a goal that we create the goal. But like you're saying, it's not a Pandora's box to say towards student achievement, because that is the goal.
Right. That's the most important part. I think if we are going to have a goal based on how we describe the outcome of our workshop, the goal would be to have our superintendent evaluation focused on student achievement or progress towards student achievement, or whatever the wording was. That's what the point I was trying to make. So.
Any other thoughts to add in? So just really quick, guys, one more time. Is everybody okay? Like the wording of the goal is not yet crafted. This is the work of the subcommittee to kind of hash this out. But would everybody be okay with personnel developing one of our goals to be around the superintendent's evaluation process? Can you give me a thumbs up if you're okay with that? If you're thinking that's okay. All right. So I feel like we do have 5 solid goals, which is a good number. It also gives each of the subcommittees something concrete to work on as we move forward. Does anybody want to kind of put another goal on the table, or do you feel like we have enough?
Forgive me, I'm sorry, I'm not speaking out of turn.
Yeah, hold on. Kirk has got his emoji hand up. Go ahead, Kirk.
I just thought I could add to the conversation on the superintendent evaluation that a tool that we can use to move there is using the DESE standards for leadership of the superintendent, of which there are 4 main buckets, and certainly student learning is a major component of that. So if you're thinking in terms of how the goal is written, I think the tool itself can take us down the pathway of how to craft that goal.
Terrific. Yeah.
I don't know if you can see me or not.
I can see you.
I can't figure out how to do the emoji raise hand. I'm not that sophisticated yet. I'm thinking about what Mary said, and I don't want to add goals per se, because we have good goals, but I do think that it would be really valuable to us to have that, that definition of roles, and that somehow to have it very clear, because, so right now, I think the longest serving member on this committee right now is 5 years, right? So we don't have that longevity on the committee. And so if we are shifting as frequently as it seems like the pattern is for this committee, to have that in a really clear and accessible format that everybody can very easily look at, refer to, and understand what those roles are, could be really beneficial to us in our, just our day-to-day working. So
that's great.
I don't know that, I'm sorry, I don't know that I hate to say we want to add more goals. We got plenty of goals, but I do think that Mary's point was well made, that it would be really beneficial to us because we don't have the longevity of people who have been here years and years and can teach us as much. It would be nice to have that.
I think that what's really interesting too is that our protocols actually do a lot of that defining. And the model protocols that exist out there, which many school committees have adopted and are very similar to our current protocols, they do a lot of that kind of curbing of the road. And so if it's not a goal, I think that it would fit nicely into the agenda item of reviewing our protocols and just refamiliarizing ourselves with what is possible through that avenue. Would that be okay, Sharon?
I think that's great. I think too, what I recall from the conversation last year about protocols was that there was questioning about how did these protocols come to be, and why do we have them as they are? So I guess I'm thinking a big picture, any way that we can understand the history, these came from MASC or whatever, any way that people can know more about how we got to here. And this is why these are the way they are. And these are the structures that help us to be effective and help us to move forward, gives us more to work with. It's beneficial in helping us to know how to move forward, I guess.
All right, great. Any other thoughts, Rich? I cut you off earlier. I'm sorry. Did you want to jump in?
Come back. I'll raise my hand again. I don't really remember what I was chiming in on.
Okay. I guess the end all be all, are we cool with the 5 goals that we've established here? I feel like it's a lot of work there in those 5 goals. Anybody want to add anything? All right. I'm going to close the door really quick. So for our subcommittees, if the people who have been elected chair, or the people who are just on the committee, if you haven't elected your chair yet, kind of take note of this. This will go into the meeting materials. I'll send this to Alita, and it'll be up on the website here for you to recall kind of the general construct of your bullet item. And then as a subcommittee, perhaps you could bring back to us a crafted, like a goal with crafted language that we could then kind of, keeping to the spirit of this conversation, just wordsmith the goal for us so that we can formalize this perhaps at the next meeting, or maybe the first meeting in October, if subcommittees need a little bit more time. Okay. I don't want to be a tyrant. Is that okay, everybody? Give me some signs.
Yep, that sounds good.
All right, very good. So that's that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen if I know how. And we're going to move on to our next item. And that's the consent agenda. So Mike, do you have that motion for us?
I do. I move to approve the September 8th, 2021 consent agenda containing the meeting minutes of June 2nd, 2021, June 10th, 2021, June 21st, 2021, July 19th, 2021, August 17th, 2021, August 25th, 2021, and August 28th, 2021, and the warrants of September 10th, 2021.
Mike, it was just August 26th, 2021.
I'm sorry, I don't have my reading glasses on, so yes. Do I need to read that again then?
No.
As amended?
Yes, that's fine. Do I have a second for the consent agenda?
Second.
Second.
Oh, I think Rich beat you guys to it. Thanks, Rich. Fast with the mute button. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Yeah, Mary.
So that if we vote on this as a consent agenda, there are a number of us who were here for many of the meetings, but not all of the meetings, and so would have to abstain. So because I'm in that category, I'd have to abstain from all, and yet I read all the meetings and I was there for most of them, had lost connection with one. So I would just prefer that we went meeting by meeting and approve them. I know it's tedious. Is Alita looking like funny? It's tedious, but so if we decide to do it this way, then I just have to abstain from the whole thing, as do a number of us. And maybe we don't care. I don't know. I could hear from other people. We could hear from other people. I care.
Go ahead, Rich. Yeah.
So typically when you're doing a consent agenda, at least at the town meeting level, so you can just ask which draft minutes you want to be held. And then we can just discuss them separately. So if there's particular minutes that we want held to be discussed or to be voted on separately, just say which ones they are. And then we can just pass the rest. So if there's like 2, vote on those separately. Because
I'll defer.
I'm going to need to abstain from the meetings because I wasn't there. So
I think to Mary's point, though.
Joe.
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Joe, I'm just wondering if what is the procedure here that you recommend?
I would recommend, as Dr. McCarthy suggested, that we go through each one individually and we vote to either approve or disapprove those minutes.
So do we have to vote this motion down before we can do that?
No, Mr. Horish can withdraw his motion without prejudice, and then we can just go ahead and move on each one of the minutes individually.
Thank you. And Sharon, anything relevant there?
No, I was just going to say to Mary's point that we may or may not all have been, like the meeting that I missed may have not been the meeting that Mary missed. So it's easier to separate it.
Go ahead, Mike.
It may be helpful for each of us to return back to the meeting materials and look at each meeting to see who is in attendance, just as a bit of a refresher.
Mike, do you mind with
motion? And I will withdraw the motion.
Okay, thank you. So the motion has been withdrawn by the mover, the motioner. Everyone else, I'll give you just a minute to pull up the meeting materials from the website if you don't already have that handy.
Yeah, I have them printed, so as I can tell you, as the motions are made, who is at each meeting or who is absent if you want.
Endlessly helpful, Alita. So can I put you back in charge of moving each of these minutes?
Mike?
Yeah. Yes.
So Mike, on the second, no one was absent.
Okay. All right. So I move to approve the minutes of the meeting minutes of June 2nd, 2021.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I think that might have been Amy. Thanks, Amy. Any discussion? Seeing none, here comes the roll. Dr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Ms. Pock.
Yes.
Mr. Gleason.
Yes.
Mr. Eckel.
But of course.
Mr. Collins.
Yes.
Mr. Windsor.
Yes.
Mr. Horish.
Yes.
Ms. Devine.
Yes.
Ms. Cohen.
Yes.
I am yes. So that vote is unanimous. For June 10th, Alita.
June 10th, the absentees or abstentions should be Sean, Brett, and Dr. McCarthy.
So I will move to approve the meeting minutes of June 10th, 2021.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Sharon. All right, any discussion? So let's move forward with the vote. Dr. McCarthy.
Abstain.
Mr. Gleason.
Yes.
Ms. Pock.
Yes.
Mr. Windsor.
Abstain.
Mr. Collins.
Abstain.
Mr. Eckel.
Yes.
Mr. Horish.
Yes.
Ms. Devine.
Yes.
Ms. Cohen.
Yes.
And I am a yes. Alita, I believe the motion passes, but what was the vote?
Vote was, what did I do with my piece of paper? The vote was 7 yeses and 3 abstentions.
I think I might have had 4 abstentions.
I had 3.
3,
Did I,
because
was it Sean?
there's only 10 of you.
Thank you so much. Sorry.
So on the 21st, I have Brett Collins and Sharon Hawk were not in attendance.
Mike, take it away.
Move to approve the meeting minutes of June 21st, 2021.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Sharon.
Hey.
All right, here we go. Dr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Pock,
Abstain.
Mr. Gleason,
Yes.
Mr. Eckel. That was a yes. Mr. Collins,
Abstain.
Mr. Windsor,
Yes.
Mr. Horish,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Devine.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion passes.
8 to 2.
Thank
2
you.
abstentions.
So July 19th.
Okay. So on to July 19th, I have Mr. Windsor and Mr. Horish were absent.
Okay.
All right, so move to approve the meeting minutes of July 19th, 2021.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Sharon. Discussion? And the vote. I will vote yes. Dr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Gleason,
Yes.
Ms. Pock,
Yes.
Mr. Windsor,
Abstain.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. Eckel,
Yes.
Mr. Horish,
Abstain?
Ms. Devine,
Yes.
and Ms. Cohen.
Yes.
Motion passes and the vote was,
8 to 2, 2 abstentions.
thank you.
August 17th, Mr. Horish was not in attendance.
Okay.
Move to approve the meeting minutes of August 17th, 2021.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Sharon. Discussion? Let's take the vote. I vote yes. Dr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Pock,
Yes.
Mr. Gleason,
Yes.
Mr. Eckel.
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. Windsor,
Yes.
Mr. Horish,
Abstain?
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Devine.
Yes.
Motion passes and the vote was 9
10 to 1, 1 abstention.
or 9 to,
No, 9 to 1, 1 abstention.
thanks, Alita.
Next is the school committee workshop. Mr. Rubenstein and Mr. Eckel were not present.
Move to approve the meeting minutes of August 25th, 2021.
Second?
Second.
Thanks, Sharon. Discussion. All right, let's take the vote. I vote yes. Dr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Pock,
Yes.
Mr. Gleason,
Yes.
Mr. Eckel.
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. Windsor,
Yes.
Mr. Horish,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Devine.
Yes.
Motion passes. The vote was
10. Are you voting yes, Rich, or are you abstaining?
Did I abstain? I meant to abstain.
You abstain, okay, that's what I thought, okay.
May amend my vote to be abstain. Is that proper protocol?
sure.
9 to 1, 1 abstention.
Thank you.
And the last one, August 26th, Dr. McCarthy was not in attendance.
Okay.
Hold on a second. I've lost it.
August 26th.
Right. Move to approve the meeting minutes of August 26th, 2021.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All right, let's take the vote. I vote yes. Dr. McCarthy,
Abstain.
Ms. Pock,
Yes.
Mr. Gleason,
Yes.
Mr. Eckel,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. Windsor,
Yes.
Mr. Horish,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Devine.
Yes.
The motion passes and the vote was, Alita.
9 yeses, 1 abstention.
Thank you. And so, Mike, we have one more matter here as we broke apart the consent agenda, and that's the warrants of September 10th, 2021. Could you make that motion for us? Did I lose Mike? There it is.
I had to plug my my phone in. Move to approve the consent agenda of, pardon me, move to approve the warrants of September 10th, 2021.
All right, I'm going to second that. Any discussion? Let's take the vote. I vote yes. Dr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. Eckel, he said yes. Ms. Pock,
Yes.
Mr. Gleason,
Yes.
Mr. Windsor,
Yes.
Ms. Devine,
Yes.
Mr. Horish,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen.
Yes.
The motion passes, and that is unanimous. Thanks so much, Alita, for that. And Mike, and everyone. So the next matter on the agenda is items for the next agenda. That's probably the only thing I don't have open in a tab right now is the planning calendar. So I don't know if you guys do. Hold on. Planning calendar. Here we go. Oh God, Alita, you're so fast. So guys, for the next meeting in September, I've got something crazy. Okay. Thanks for moving that around, Alita. Awesome. So here are the items that are already going to land on the agenda, the bottom half there. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, if we have to finalize the school committee goals and subcommittees are crafting language for those goals, is it my understanding that those subcommittees will have to meet and craft that language prior to the next school committee meeting, or are we going to push that particular agenda item off until the following date?
My instinct tells me we should push that goal finalizing goals to October, first meeting in October.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other thoughts on next agenda items? Yeah, Kirk, is that your hand?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do know that Dr. Boynton will need to present her entry plan template to the school committee as well. Should I just do that in the context of the superintendent's report, or would you like that as a separate agenda item?
I think 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, as my grandmother used to say. So I'm
happy to write a brief piece to that and then have her speak to her entry report, similar to the way Dr. McGuire spoke to the teaching and learning section this evening.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah, Mary, did you have your hand up?
I did. The time of school committee meetings, I just wanted a little clarification, because I'm hoping that means that we would be looking at beginning meetings at a different time than 6 o'clock. Is that the understanding there? The time of school committee?
That's the intent. Yep.
Okay, and then looking at the other side, which is already there, of limiting the amount of time other than with a vote of the whole committee. Okay, good, thanks.
Any other thoughts on adding to this? And certainly things come up. You can just reach out to me and let me know if something occurs to you later. Of course, Superintendent Downing will undoubtedly have things he'll need to share that we are not aware of yet. All right, so, oh, Amy, is that a hand? Go ahead.
Yeah, this might be more of a request for an item in the superintendent update, but a status update on the EMT cadet program. I don't think it needs to be an agenda item, but
I'll be happy to include that in my report.
Thank you so much.
Great, thanks, Amy. Anything else? All right, everybody. That will suffice for our next agenda. And looking at our current agenda right now, our next item is to move into executive session because I declare an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating and bargaining position of the public body. And so, Mr. Horish, if you could read our motion.
Yes, and before I read the motion, I just want to point out that we are just under 9 minutes ahead of schedule, which thrills me. In that vein, I will move to go into executive session at 7:51 p.m. pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares regarding the matter of Maria del Rosario versus NASHOBA Regional School District, NASHOBA Regional School District et al., docket number 1885 CV01899. Executive session will include Superintendent Downing, Director of Pupil Personnel Service, Joan DeAngelis, and District Legal Counsel Attorney Kevin Freitag. School committee will adjourn in executive session.
I have a second.
Second.
Thanks, Sharon. Do I call for discussion here, Joe? No. I could, but no. Okay. So let's move forward. I vote yes. Dr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Windsor.
Yes, alone.
Mr. Collins.
Yes.
Ms. Pock.
Yes.
Mr. Gleason.
Yes.
Ms. Devine.
Yes.
Ms. Cohen.
Yes.
Mr. Eckel.
Yes.
Mr. Horish.
I vote yes.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously. We will now enter into executive session and adjourn from there.